What's that? Who there? Whoa.
Do you have any of those moments that you could share that, in the early days you looked at and were like, oh, these are huge obstacles I don't think we're going to be able to overcome. And then of course, in hindsight, we're like a small blip.
So one thing I will say that a lot of startups face that I don't think a lot of people realize is a lot of them almost or actually do run out of money at some point. And it's just through some miracle and perseverance that they actually pull it together. And like we ran out of money a year and a half ago, like before we raised our Series B, and you just like stretch out paying suppliers and whatnot until you can pull the money together and raise it. So that's something we went through. And then I talked to a lot of other companies. They were all like, yeah, that happens. Like we went to like, I've talked to some major companies, some that are like public today. And they're like, oh, we ran out of money 3 times and had to like stretch paying suppliers in order to survive. Like that happens. Like that's just part of the journey. But one thing that comes to mind, which was super early, and this is in the days when we were taking pre-orders. So this was fall of 2016. So we're still taking pre-orders, trying to make the first products. Like we made a batch of 15, delivered those, but then we had changed the design a little bit, and so we were trying to get all these custom parts in, these like metal and injection molded plastic parts for the assembly mechanism from China, while we're like getting all the foam and wood from Mexico and making these things. And so the team is still just Kabir and I, and we had to delay the pre-orders. And I'm getting all these emails from angry pre-order customers, and they're like, "I want to talk to your boss." And I'm like, "Just call me. Here's my cell phone number. Like, it's just 2 of us. Like, I'm in school. Like, can you talk right now?" And I'm like, "I can't because I'm going into class. But like, when I get out of class, like, I can talk to you." And then they start to realize like how small the operation is, and how I was like, "We'll do whatever we can for you, but like,
yeah,
whatever."
We got 4 hands total here. Like,
yeah, exactly. So, but the funny story was, we were preparing for this photo shoot that we had spent a lot of money on. It was to do all of the shots for our website that we were going to launch when we were like we were going to transition out of pre-orders to fully have, product in stock that when you place your order, it could be delivered to you within a week. That was part of the value proposition that we knew we needed to hit on. And to this point, we'd only had that like fake sofa on the website, which we literally photoshopped. I did it in Microsoft PowerPoint. I photoshopped it. That's what we've been taking pre-orders on. So I was like, okay, we're gonna do a real photo shoot with with an assembly GIF of how this thing goes together, whatever. So I'm down at the factory. We have the sofas made, but the custom parts hadn't arrived yet. And we said, you know what? That's okay. Like they're gonna arrive next week. We will just overnight just enough parts for the photo shoot samples, and we'll send them to New York. And then we'll some of them ourselves. We know how to put them on the sofa. And so we're like, all right, we'll just box up the actual seat modules and the arms and send them on a trailer from Mexico City to New York. And the day that the boxes were supposed to arrive to put the seats in, we get a call from our box supplier, and they're like, hey, we're delayed. And we're like, okay, how much? Like, we talked to you 2 days ago and you said everything was all good. So, how delayed are we? And they're like, we're about a month behind.
What?
And yeah, well, it's like, I don't know how that's possible, but like, you have to do something. And they're like, there's nothing we can do. So there was this box supplier that was across the street from our factory that we had turned down because they were too expensive. But I went to them and I was like, hey, if you can get some sample boxes made for us, we'll give you our entire business, all of our packaging. And they're like, we'd love to, but we're having our holiday party, and every single, number one, the factory's not open. Number two, every box we have available just sitting around is being used as a giant stage. There's like a band playing.
Yeah, of course.
I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I just needed like 20 boxes, like big boxes, like help me out here. And they're like, there's nothing we can do. And so then I was like we couldn't miss this photo shoot. We'd spent the money on it, and like $20,000 all in for like everything we were going to do as an early stage startup is like everything. You just can't afford to redo these things. So I went on Google Maps, Googled cardboard, and had I don't speak Spanish, so I had the CEO of the factory call up every single hit that came up within like a 50-mile radius And by the 8th one, we found one that had the right corrugate cardboard for us. They didn't have the boxes, but I was like, just send a truck there, pick up as many sheets of this cardboard as you can fit in the truck and bring it back. And then I was like, we have a CNC router here that can fit half of the die lines of a box, like the outline of how you would cut it out. And I was like, let's make one of those out of wood, and then we will cut the boxes ourselves by hand.
It's insane.
Yeah, and so I spent the entire. I mean, first of all, the CEO's like, "Dude, you're nuts! Like, just call off the photo shoot." And I was like, "We can't. We have to do this." And so we made the 2 traces, and sure enough, like a couple hours later, the cardboard arrives, and I spent the entire night on the floor with a box cutter and all the factory workers, and I like bought them beer. So by the end of the night, we're all like hammered, just like cutting.
20 boxes.
Yeah, and cutting thick corrugate cardboard with a box
it's not
cutter,
easy.
No, you're like sawing, and so we made these really shitty looking boxes, whatever, and we finally got it done. We glued them together, and we're like, all right, let's ship it out. And I really wish that the story ended there, but the factory filled out the paperwork wrong, and so they got stuck in customs.
Oh man!
So we were again going to miss the photo shoot. And so they were stuck in Laredo, Texas, and they're like, yeah, like the only way to get it there in time is to air freight it in, and that was going to cost like $12,000 or something. And we're like, we can't do that. And so after like 2 hours on the phone with the woman at FedEx, she was like, have you ever heard of hot trucking? I was like, no, I've not heard of this. It's just like, okay. So when truck drivers drive, they can only drive for so many hours straight legally, and then they have to take a break. Hot trucking is where you have teams of people that take turns driving, and they can just drive straight, like for like 20 hours straight. And so that was only like $3,000, which was still more than we could afford, but we're like, this is our best option. And so I like bribed this woman at FedEx by sending her a nice bottle of whiskey, and she pulled our boxes physically like out of the FedEx like warehouse and did like give to this hot trucking company in Texas, and they drove it to Brooklyn.
Wow.
And then the parts that we overnighted to Brooklyn or to New York got held up because there was a snowstorm and got rerouted, and they were not going to arrive till afterwards, after the photo shoot. So in order to get the custom parts in, I had to buy a personal plane ticket for the CEO to fly from Mexico City to New York.
That's insane.
And not only that, but he was so lazy that he wouldn't actually. His visa. He had a Spanish passport, so his like e-visa had expired. So I had to fill out that paperwork for him because he was like, I don't know how to do it. So I like asked him for his social security number and everything, and was like,
oh man.
But we got it. It all worked out. We made it on time. But it was just like, it cannot be this hard at every step of the process.